Welcome to Strength for Today's Man. This is volume 20 and actually episode 34 on Today's Man podcast. Welcome. Thank you so much, guys, for being here today with me to share just a few moments of encouragement for you men and the women that are watching as well. I don't forget about you. God bless all of you for your support. Thank you. Listen, let's go to Galatians 5:1, and then I'm going to read the 13th verse. I like this. It says, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by the yoke of slavery." King James Version says bondage. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. Do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. Man, that's a good one. That's a good one. I thank God for being free. I thank God for setting me free. But I really thank God for setting me free for a purpose. So let me ask you this, man. Are you free? And then I want to ask, do you know why you were freed? But then there's other questions that come. What were you freed from? And then my last question would be, do you know the purpose why you were freed? What's the purpose for you being freed? So many questions that's in this, so many questions that we need to deal with when it talks about freedom. And that's pretty much what I want to talk about. It's freedom, being freed. When we think about freedom, I think about some of the books I've read, some of the movies I've watched, where the plot is all about the pursuit of freedom. People are trying to be freed from this, trying to be freed from that. We love stories of people being freed from captivity. We love people that have been freed from oppressive situations. But when I think about oppressive situations, I think about things other than jail and slavery. I think about being oppressed by sin, being oppressed by habits, being oppressed by maybe drugs, alcohol, sex. A lot of people are hooked on pornography. That's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I've never been one to watch pornography. I've never been hooked on anything that was, sexually orientated, as far as books, magazines. That wasn't my thing. That wasn't my habit. And the things that God did free me from, the alcohol, the drugs, it was so liberating to feel that freedom. And I know, where I live right now, there's a lot of good old boys. And for Americans, freedom, it's woven in our cultural DNA with phrases like home of the free, land of the brave, home of the free. A lot of good old boys, they drive around their big old pickup trucks with their flags on the back, displaying their proudness of being an American. Well, I'm happy for you that you're happy to be an American. But here, interesting, I find that the Bible is on the same page when it talks about freedom. It talks about being proud to be free, about home of the free. Paul challenged the Galatians because they made their faith all about rule adherence. That's something that as leaders, we really need to pay attention to. It's a wonder to me that some of the messages that I see, and I'm like, where are they getting their information from, their translation from, their understanding of what they're reading from? And I'm like, I don't really see that what is being taught in the word, especially here when it talks about faith and rule adherence. Paul wanted them to know true faith means freedom from Catch this. A religion strictly forced on rules and regulations. Oh, we really need to do a podcast on religious strictly focused on rules and regulations. Now, yes, you got to have rules. Yes, you got to have regulations. Yes, you got to have boundaries. But some of these people are making rules and regulations their religion and their doctrine. And there is so much wrong with that. Culturally, we love the idea of being freed from others' approval. Rule-based religion, self-criticism, and understandably so. Yesterday, I talked about the Christian Critic Committee because all they do is criticize on what other people are saying, other people are doing, other people are posting, other people, how they're living their life, how they're walking their walk in salvation. They just criticize every single thing. And I'm like, where is the Jesus in that? Where is the love of God in any of that? I'm not perfect by no means, but I'm not trying to convince anyone that my way is the only way. That because you don't quote 2 and 3 scriptures, you're not saved. You're not effectively working in God's kingdom. What? That because you don't dress this way, you're not saved. What? There are so many things wrong with that. But there is more to freedom than escaping something. We all want to escape something. We all want to get away from people. We want to get away from religious structure. We want to get away from the religious dogma. We want to get away from all the religious hang-ups. All the things that's really shying us away from the love of God. And a lot of that is nonsense. It really is. Here, in Galatians 5, Paul speaks about being freed from the law. But then in verse 13, he says that we have been freed for a purpose. That's why I asked, do you know what your purpose is? The reason you were freed. Why were you freed? For what purpose? The things that you were freed from, I'm happy for you. You ought to be happy for it. True freedom means that we have been freed from the religious rules and regulations through Christ's work on the cross, and that we are freed for a purpose of loving God and the world. Those two right there are essential elements for true freedom. Being freed from religious rules, being freed from religious dogma, being freed from religious hang-ups under the law. And there's a lot of people that will debate about being under the law and still under the law, that because it's in the Bible, we still have to adhere by the law. Well, some of that, yeah, I understand many of that. Thou shalt not kill. I understand that. That's a law. We all still under that law. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Yes, we're still under that law. There are a lot of things that we don't do under the law. We don't commit sacrifice. We don't do sacrifices no more. We don't go out there and kill bullocks and lambs and turtle doves, and we don't pour blood on the mercy seat. We don't do none of that. But there's still certain things in the religious realm that's tying people up and keeping them bondage from truly loving God and loving the world. And I'm going to close with this because this can be a very hot topic. Very hot topic. Father, remind me that I am free from the law. I'm going to rephrase that. Father, remind us that we are free from the law. Remind me that I am free for a purpose. I need to change that. Remind us that we are freed for a purpose. And what was that purpose? To love. To love, to love, to love. And did I say to love? Focus on loving people. You that are of the Christian Critic Committee, why don't you try focusing on loving people instead? This is Strength for Today's Man, Volume 20. I'm Malachi Mitchell. What are you freed from? What was the purpose of you being freed? To love. You guys go out there and make it a blessed day. We'll see you again on the next episode.